I was watching a video of Douglas Murray speaking about his book, The Strange Death of Europe, and also faith and the need for faith. Now, for those of you who don't know, Douglas Murray is an outspoken critic of Islam, an atheist. However, he recognizes the value of faith. And I just wanted to play his video and just give a few comments on it.
So I think I was going to ask this, and it seems related. So we talked a bit about this in the car ride, but Jordan Peterson seems to think that the only way to revitalize Western cultures is to rescue the substrate, which is the Judeo-Christian religious tradition, and in particular, in his case, Christianity. And so he's giving this biblical lecture series because he thinks that really, like, the reason people can talk about interest rates, but they can't talk about the things that really matter, is that they've become disconnected from the source.
Right.
And so, and it seems to me that you and he, to some degree, converge on that point. That is the argument that Christianity itself, religious traditions, are critical in order for the West to believe in itself. And as we become more secularized, what you're describing is a sort of inevitable byproduct of that. Others, like Sam Harris, have argued that actually Western liberal values can thrive in the absence of Christianity.
Yes. I address this in this chapter, the feeling that the story has run out, where I give an admittedly a swift run-through of what I think the situation of faith now is, which is that you can regret it or you can not regret it, but it's happened. The process of biblical scholarship in 19th century Germany is not going to be disappeared away, or at least not for the foreseeable future. You can't unlearn what you've learned. We're not going to revoke Darwinism. God knows there will be some people who will continue to try. But we are where we are because of what we know. And as I say, you can lament it or not, but that's our fate of where we are. And to your question, the odd position of where we find ourselves in Europe, at any rate, is that, yes, we end up in this Nietzschean problem we were discussing earlier, that where we still have a lot of the structure of the Christian faith and the Judeo-Christian religion, but without the answers that it provides. So that we have all of the thing of guilt, but there is no way to alleviate guilt. There is no redemption. There is only the guilt. And this is just one example. Another, which I've given the book, is this way in which we still dream Christian dreams. I mean, my view, I explain why in the book, but is that the form is human rights, which is the sort of nearest we've come to a post-war religion. Well, until the intersectionalists came along and came up with a new weird religion. The nearest we come to really was human rights. But human rights is so obviously a product of post-Christian thought that it's. I mean, people say to me all the time wherever I go in the way, it's obvious that human rights are right. And you think, do you have any idea the number of places in the world where human rights look very unright?
So this is very nice coming from an atheist. It's nice of them to admit that our argument that we've been making for a very long time, that without God, there is no meaning, purpose, value, justice, hope, even truth and happiness are not intrinsically valuable. Everything that we have, Darwinism has eroded away. So to continue to speak about those things is hypocritical. So it's very nice of him to recognize that the Nietzschean problem is real without God, and accepting the Darwinian picture, the naturalistic picture. All of this is eroded away, and it's a very bleak, dark picture, which I'm happy to see he's admitting to. Now, on the topic of, okay, we can't unlearn what we've learnt, say, when he speaks about Darwinism. Well, what have we learned about Darwinism? Most people that you speak to, when it comes to this topic, they're just like, oh, yeah, it's true because of this and that. They don't actually know why it's supposedly true. Secondly, if it were true, if it were actually true, then the question is, why are we yearning for meaning, purpose, value, hope, self-transcendence, to connect with something greater than us? Why are we doing that? Isn't that a complete blunder from a naturalistic perspective? Why would we even have these concepts? Why would these concepts exist? Why should we even care about truth? We should just be caring about what works, right? Now, the whole idea that we're left with this sort of remnant of faith, which leads to human rights, which he considers a religion, and we still have this idea of these faith-based Christian dreams. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And the whole idea of progress, we need to make the world a better place. I remember an atheist who converted to Islam once said to me about his former sort of way of thinking, and was just explaining a few ideas to me. And, he said, if the world is pointless, how can you make it better? How can you make something that's pointless better? It's just pointless. So it doesn't make any sense. I see a lot of pain in him and in other atheists. And these are the honest ones. These are not the ones who are like going around speaking about, as if they have something. They realize there's a deficit, and there's a massive deficit. So anyway, he goes on to say some quite interesting things after this.
So I think this is just a situation that we're in, and I don't know the way out. I know I can think of some of them, but I think that the people who say, well, as a result, we must re-evangelize or whatever. It's noticeable, by the way, that the people who do that tend not to be believers and think other people have to do the believing, which isn't, by the way, such a tautological position or hypocritical position, because you can believe in belief without being able to believe yourself.
Yeah, so that makes sense from a atheistic perspective. If it works, it doesn't matter if belief in God is not true. If society at large believes in God, then it holds on to meaning. Suffering has a point, and life is bearable because there's meaning behind it. So in that case, shouldn't New Atheism stop its publication of books and lectures and articles and Camp Quest and all this nonsense? Maybe he should advise Dawkins.
And just a more of a comparative point. Do you think, since we were talking about different cultural systems, right? And do you think in countries, say Muslim majority countries, even the countries that are to a great extent secular, they differ largely in this notion where the substructure of, say, Islamic thought or Islamic philosophy continues to survive, and it continues to answer certain questions in ways different than in the West? Because it seems to me that the strict secularism, to the point where the substrate, where God is killed in the Nietzschean sense, it creates problems. While in the Islamic, in Muslim majority communities, and being from one, I know that you can be totally secular, but there is, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim in a Muslim majority country, it doesn't really matter. But there is and in this sense, it's not really religious in the typical sense, but it is almost as if you're aware of the basic questions that hold your society together, or the basic answers that hold your society.
It's where you'd go in a crisis.
Sure.
As I say, I mean, it's impossible to diagnose where that goes, because one of the most obvious things is to return to the source because you need something. I have various Europeans I quote in the book who do that for precisely that reason, who are willing to return to faith, not because they particularly believe, but because they think it might be the only answer to the political and existential problems they see coming.
So that was quite interesting. Why not try Islam? Why go back to Christianity, Douglas? Why, you spoke about we can't unlearn Darwinism. Well, that's fine. We can't unlearn, like you said, 19th century German scholarship. So I think you're there referring to the preservation of the Bible or whatever it is. Well, the Quran's well preserved. And I don't mean to say return to faith from the perspective that you're actually saying, which is that just take it as a pragmatic thing. No, I'm saying it's actually true. It'll make you happy and it's true. Now, you mentioned, or somebody next to you mentioned Nietzsche. Nietzsche saw this coming. When everybody was sort of laughing and happy and joyous that God had supposedly been killed and died, Nietzsche's madman is basically telling people that life is basically meaningless without God, right? And just last night I had a talk with Yusuf on this topic, which I'm going to upload on this channel, inshallah, God willing. And we went into this into a lot more detail because that's what his thesis was at university, nihilism. So life being meaningless is something we all are going to face, and faith, we all agree, whether you're an atheist or a theist, is the only solution. So let's not, I don't like your solution of let's just adopt it, perhaps because it works. No, let's have a honest dialogue. Let's start speaking. Let's start looking into, is it true? Is it true that there's a creator that's created us for a higher purpose than survival and reproduction? Is it actually true that meaning does actually exist, that there is purpose, goal, intentionality in the universe, that morals do exist, that design is real? Let's have an honest discussion, because until and unless you can have a frank, open discussion, we're not going to get anywhere. Now, if you're going to have those sort of childish things, or belief in God as a fairy tale, or spaghetti monster, all these types of things, then we're not going to get anywhere. And what I find interesting is that to attack God, atheists continuously make very polytheistic arguments. So they continuously make God like a human being in order to ridicule him, make God like a spaghetti monster in order to ridicule him, make God into something else, again, describing God in a very creation sense, and then ridiculing him. When they clearly know, when we, the Abrahamic faiths, when we're speaking about God, we're not speaking about God that's like the creation. We're speaking about a transcendent creator. So why are you guys continuously trying to attack this straw man? Because we both recognize that that concept of God is totally false. And the pure transcendent concept of God, that is powerful and that is undeniable. Now, coming back to the idea of faith, let's have an honest dialogue, right? And I want even the atheists on this channel to just stop with your nonsense about religion this, religion that. Even your guys now, Douglas Murray and also Sam Harris, they're starting to recognize there's deficiencies in the atheist conceptual toolkit. There's things that are missing. Murray is obviously speaking about purpose, but Sam is speaking about spirituality. So let's have an honest dialogue. Let's not have these very superfluous conversations. Let's recognize that in secular societies, depression is a big issue. let's also recognize that suffering is unbearable unless it's given a meaning, and there is no meaning in suffering unless you have some sort of faith in God. So we need to have these honest dialogues. And, at the root of this, Darwinism, which Murray mentioned, we need to have an honest dialogue about it. Previously it was very convenient for you guys to just accept Darwinism because it gave you a green card to live your life in a hedonistic way. Do what you want, right? Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Crowley's Thelema idea. That you should recognize by now, if you've lived a life like that, it'll never give you happiness. So we need to start having authentic conversations about these topics. And to have those authentic conversations, we need to throw away all that jargon and name blaming and this and that. And we just need to sit down and say, look, life is honestly depressing without meaning. And meaning you cannot really have unless you have faith and unless you have belief in God. So let's have a conversation. Why do we believe in God? What are the arguments for God? And when this mindset is corrected to get away from ridicule and someone is sincere and they want to find out, the truth will become clear to you. Anybody who honestly, truly asks for God's guidance will get it. It is as simple as that. And you will only be accountable according to what you actually know. So I hope you enjoyed this clip. I'm hoping to do, inshallah, God willing, more videos like this where I just sort of dissect ideas while watching the video with you guys. Let me know your thoughts about this type of format, and I look forward to your comments. Assalamu alaikum.